Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the presentation. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you're having a great day today. Hopefully you are. And wherever you are in this brutal world, I'm just opening up the presentation for everybody there to the book to the face. And now we're all set to go. All right. Let me just push this button here. All right. Now we're live everywhere. So guys, hello, and happy Friday to you. It's Paranormal Fridays. Before we get into the presentation, folks, listen to me. Listen. Everybody, this is brand new news. Now listen, this is important. There's two things you must do. If you want a free Kindle tonight, the first 100, that's it, the first 100 folks, there are two things you must do. If you're on TikTok, this is what you got to do on TikTok. You don't have to worry about that if you're on all the social media platforms, all that other stuff. But if you're on TikTok, one, you need to follow Bill Skywatcher right now. All one word, Bill Skywatcher. He's Mr. Producer behind the scenes. On TikTok, follow him now. Bill Skywatcher, all one word. Then you need to go to this website, KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. KGRADB.com. So if you go there, you'll see the first 100 and you get a free Kindle. The KGRADB radio is sending out a free Kindle to the first 100 people. So you need to do this now. But if you're on TikTok, you got to do two things. One, it's free. Two, follow Bill Skywatcher. All one word on TikTok. And then after that, all you got to do is go to KGRADB.com and you'll see where it says to receive a free Kindle. Just put your information in and there you go, guys. That's it. So KGRADB radio is giving away Kindles right now, only to the first 100, obviously. So, because we have a lot of people listening now. And so make sure you do that, guys. Why not? We want to give them away to you. And we appreciate KGRADB radio doing this. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. So there you guys. Okay. Yep. Thank you very much, Lim. And I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, moderators, for putting Bill's information on TikTok. Make sure you follow everybody. Bill Skywatcher. He's Mr. Producer behind the scenes. Yes, there is a Mr. Producer behind the scenes. And so head on over there. Make sure you do that. Follow him now. And then go to KGRADB.com. All right, KGRADB.com. Subchat is on. We always put subchat on for the first hour when we have a special guest. That way we can kind of keep the trolls away because we don't like trolls here. We are a troll-free zone. And there we are. Okay, so a couple things before we get into the presentation, everybody. And if for those of you who are watching here on all the other social media platforms, go to KGRADB.com right now. And put your information in there. Get your Kindle today. Get your Kindle. It's free. Do it, guys. I think that's really cool. I really do think that's awesome. That to me is very nice that they're doing this. Hey, it's free, and why not? So yeah, we do the show on KGRADB radio, and they are fantastic. They're a great group of people, truly are, and I'm honored to be a part of the KGRADB family. So hopefully you are enjoying it as well. All right, so we have a lot to chat before we get into the presentation and go from there. Okay, there we are. Got it? Okay, so first of all, let me give you a couple of websites to go to. If you're really bored, have nothing else better to do, and you need something to put you to sleep, no, it's KGRADB. Moderators, if you could put that in TikTok. There's a few folks that, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Bill. Why don't we go ahead and pen that? How's that? Hey, Bill, can you pen that, please, on TikTok? Thank you, buddy. And that way, for those of you who haven't gotten one, make sure you do it. There it is right now. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. KGRADB. But you got to follow Bill Skywatcher first. Bill Skywatcher on TikTok. Okay, so again, if you're really, really bored, have nothing else better to do, and you want something to put you to sleep, why not go over to my website? It certainly will do that. You can go to bishopjameslong.com. bishopjameslong.com. You can head over there, see what's going on. There it is right there for you. For those of you who are on the other social media platforms, that's it for you guys. There's a lot of information there for you. A little bit about me, who I am, blah, 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 blah. More importantly, I would like for you to go to the church's website, and that's usocc.org. usocc.org. And there it is right there for those of you who are on the other social media platforms. I want to remind you that we have night prayer tonight. Night prayer is at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. And of course, we would love to have you guys there. We start at 9:50 p.m. Eastern, the chat, and then we actually open the night prayer. We'll start the night prayer at 10 p.m. And there it is. So, and then tomorrow is our kind of open mic night. And with that, we just chill. You know, it's nothing scheduled. And then Sunday night, we have Bible study at 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Yep, there you go. And again, for those of you who are on TikTok, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for subscribing. You know, first of all, happy Memorial Day weekend. That's absolutely, truly, it's a special weekend that we all obviously recognize. And we will, thank you there, Judy. We will acknowledge that certainly on Sunday and then, of course, on Monday. For those of you who know, the background is a little different. We used to have this, actually, the background. We used to have it all the time. But really, this is kind of like my chapel. And I just didn't like the idea of paranormal with the chapel kind of a thing. It's like, so anyway, we decided to go back to the, on Friday nights only, this is where you're going to see the background. And I'm going to take this air conditioning back because it makes a lot of noise. Unfortunately, I have to take it all apart. I am not looking forward to that because it just makes that rattling noise. It's really loud. It's annoying. But anyway, that's okay. That is okay. Need to get you on with Bishop in the future too, Bill. Oh, okay. So anyway, there you go, guys. That's what, that's UAPPD. Okay. Oh, yeah. So there we go, guys. So I tell you what, there is a lot going on. We are going to talk about the Annabelle. Everybody is talking about the Annabelle. We'll talk about that later on. But right now, I want to get into a very, very interesting conversation. We have a special guest, and I'm excited about this particular guest. And we thank Mr. Producer for putting this guest together. So thank you. First of all, I love astronomy. Always have. And I'm a space nerd. Those of you who know me know that I went to space camp as a kid. Enough said. So we're going to step into the unknown with Marc Dantonio. He's a seasoned astrophysicist, and he is the go-to expert for aerial anomalies and extraterrestrial mysteries. He has a degree in astronomy, and his role as a chief photo video analyst for the world's largest organization dedicated to uncovering strange craft in our skies. And he's at the forefront of investigating the unexplained. MUFON. Now, he's also as the host of Sky Tour Radio on KGRADB and creator of Sky Tour live stream on YouTube. Marc brings the universe's most astonishing phenomena into focus, revealing stunning images and videos of objects that defy conventional explanation. Now, his work uncovers the secrets lurking beyond our view, offering a rare glimpse into the possibility that we are not alone. Now, beyond the cosmos, he's the CEO of FX Models, crafting intricate effects and models that challenge perception, tools that help him decode the mysteries of the night sky. And his knowledge of the universe's hidden stories make him a trusted voice in the search for truth and UFOs and alien visitors. So join us as we explore the vast unknown beyond the stars, where secrets of otherworldly craft and extraterrestrial life are just waiting to be uncovered. So let's bring on our guest. Hello there, Marc, and welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, how? Man, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, first of all, you love you love space. I love space. You're I mean, come on. This is like I'm like a fat kid in the candy store right now because this is like my thing. I like I said, I went to space camp when I was a kid. Of course, it was in its infancy back in those days.
Oh yeah.
But still, there. I think when people find out a little bit more about our own solar system tonight, they're going to be shocked. I really do. And so, first of all, did I make sure I get your introduction fine? Anything else that you want to add for your intro before we get into the presentation?
Well, actually, the only thing is, there's three different types of people that study the universe, and there are astronomers, there's astrophysicists, and there's cosmologists. I'm the astronomer. So I didn't go down the astrophysics branch. I didn't go down the cosmology branch, but you have to know, obviously, a lot about both disciplines to be one of the three. So it's sort of all overlapping. So I got my degree in astronomy, and I knew at age nine that I was going to be an astronomer.
Wow!
And that happened after having a missing time event. I had a missing time event on a school outing near the end of the year where we're going to a pond, and I remember getting on the bus with my little bag lunch. I remember getting off the bus with my little bag lunch at the pond. Then all of a sudden, I'm getting back on the bus with my little bag lunch. And I said, when are we going to the pond? And the kids were like, we've been there all day, you dummy, you jerk, blah, blah, blah. And I lost the whole day. And
wow,
I still had my lunch in my hands. I felt like I'd only just left my house. It was the weirdest thing. So when I got home, I started having seizures, and they had to call an ambulance and take me to the hospital, where they discovered that they discovered nothing because they couldn't figure out what caused it. They had an idea. They said, "Oh, well, he must have got a concussion," because during the seizure, I was pounding my head on the sand, with my forehead, and so they saw dirt embedded in my forehead and said, "Oh, that's why he got the concussion. He must have fallen on his face." Well, no. I actually fell in the lot the empty lot next to the house when I was having the seizure, and that's what caused it. And the weird thing is, I remember every bit of it, except I don't remember any of the time from when I was at the pond. I don't remember a thing happening at the pond, nothing whatsoever.
Now, let me ask you. Now, of course, we know for those people who follow ufology and extraterrestrial origins, and even people who are abducted by what they describe as aliens, UFOs. Many people, it seems like one of the common denominators there is always a time lapse. There's always seemed to be some type of loss of time. Do you think, I'm just throwing this out there, is there any evidence that might have happened from your perception, or do you think this was just brought on by a medical situation, by seizure?
Well, the thing that happened to me was I remember the bus, and the kids in the bus also said, "Where were you all day? And where were you?" So they didn't see me either. So that was kind of weird, and I didn't know what to say about that. I didn't know. I was a kid. I was nine-ish years old, 9.5 or so, and I had no idea what was going on. So I didn't know that I lost the day until I thought about it later, And later on that evening, my mother, I think, asked me, "So how was Burr Pond," which was the pond in Torrington, Connecticut, where I supposedly went? And I said, "I don't really remember it." And I couldn't tell her why I didn't remember it. So, because I didn't know. I wasn't afraid. I just didn't know.
Wow.
And the hardest part was when the nurse was using tweezers to pick the little sand out of my forehead, because that was an abrasion, and that really hurt. So I just wanted to go home. It was making me cry, and everything. It was just terrible.
That isn't okay. Let me ask you this: with your extensive background in astronomy, how do you distinguish between natural celestial phenomena and potential UFO sightings?
Oh, that's actually a very good question. I'm as MUFON's, the Mutual UFO Network's chief photo and video analyst, which they pointed me that in 2008, and I've been doing it ever since. Can you believe it? And but the problem is, in order to be a good image analyst, video analyst, you have to be really good at understanding astronomy, as you pointed out. You have to understand environmental science. You have to understand oceanography. You have to understand how the atmosphere works. You have to understand geology. Because all of these things come into play because each case is unique. And people say, look at that object flying through the sky. Okay, well, wait a minute. This means you also have to know all about cameras and be able to take photos with cameras in a million different ways. And I lovingly say, I've taken more bad photographs than anyone has in photography.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty straightforward to me that you bring all these observational capabilities to bear, and then you have this interesting capability to sort of uniquely decipher what's going on out there. Now, am I always right? Well, no, not at all. Not at all. But I also make sure that I put all the data I get through a really, really tight funnel. I call it the processing funnel. The stuff goes in at the top, goes down, the funnel gets narrower and narrower and narrower. And that means I'm removing possibilities as I go. If it makes it out of the bottom, it means that all of the natural possibilities, like you mentioned, were discarded as not correct in this particular case. And if it comes out of the bottom, it means it's a true unknown. And there's not many of those, as you can imagine, right? I mean, unknowns account for maybe 0.5%. And that makes sense because when you consider how many people have cell phones and cameras out there of all kinds, they're always taking photos. Dash cam videos capture things like the Russian meteor in 2012, the Chelyabinsk meteor. Okay, that thing came through and injured 1,000 people. And about 500 dash cams caught it in Russia. So you saw it from so many different perspectives and angles. So that was really cool. So, these natural occurrences here on our planet can often be photographed by people with their cameras. And everyone has a camera now. Everyone has a camera now. It's very different from the past. So it means that in all likelihood, you're going to get a tremendous upswing in the number of ordinary objects captured in extraordinary ways. And that's what I see a lot of.
So let me ask you, how did you get, so you're an astronomer. So let's talk about how did you get into MUFON? And yet, no, folks, people, you don't have to be an astronomer to tune in, guys. So that's not what this is about. We're not doing a lecture on astronomy. We're going to talk about his experience here is pretty, just stay tuned. I think you're going to be kind of shocked, especially with his experience with MUFON. And that's what I want to find out. Why did you get into MUFON? What was the point? How did that start?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. Okay, so after I got home from the hospital at age 9.5, whatever, just before 10, I realized, wow, I don't know why I'm feeling this, but I feel like I'm being watched. I feel like something up there can see me somehow. Now I'm a kid at this point. I don't know really what's going on. I watch cartoons. Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner were my favorite cartoon to watch. Meep meep. I loved it. Okay, but the bottom line is, when I would look outside and look up in the sky, I felt like I really needed to dig into what was up there. I didn't know why.
And this was 9 years old. This is when you were 9.
This is when I was roughly 9 years old.
Okay. And then how did you get with MUFON? I mean, how does a person with a degree in astronomy, because a lot of people, let's face it, a lot of people, when you think of alien, UFOs, UAPs, alien abduction, I mean, a lot of people that I know who is in astronomy, they kind of like sometimes, I hate to say this, but they kind of shrug at that and roll their eyes. So with this,
well, that's true.
So you have a degree.
That's true.
You have a degree in astronomy. So how did you get involved with MUFON?
Yeah, MUFON came first.
Oh,
because I joined MUFON in 1971, 2 years after it formed. And the reason I joined was because I saw a flyer for it in the Plainville, Connecticut Public Library, when I went in to talk to Mrs. Brown, the librarian, about going into the older people's section to get books on chemistry as a 9-year-old, And so she allowed me to go up there, and I saw this flyer for the Midwest UFO Network. And I took it and said, "Ooh, I want this."
And for those of you who don't know, MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. It's a U.S.-based nonprofit organization. It's basically composed of civilian volunteers who study reported UFO sightings. And so the fact that our guest is really, committed to the organization. So what's the most compelling piece of evidence that you have seen from MUFON that strongly suggest an extraterrestrial origin, or is there any?
Well, there's a number of cases that I find interesting. One of the ones I thought was most important to me was a video that was only 3 seconds long, and it was done, back in, I think, was it 1952? It was a video taken by a videographer who had his daughter at a stadium, and he was there checking it out prior to some type of broadcast he was going to be doing later. And he turned his camera to the sky, and he started panning across the sky, and 2 silver objects went blazing right through, and they were actually there. They went behind the radio antennas and emerged from the radio antennas, and those are really cool. That's a very famous case, and so that's an example. Another example is the case, and this one is more of a witness testimony case, because you can't really ever say that someone who sees something is relaying it exactly as such. However, what if it's from people on a ship at sea? And what if it's a trained crew? Never mind that. What if it's U.S. Navy personnel? And that's an example. Another one, and that was like USS Omaha. There was an object in the sky that people saw. There was another one where sailors on the deck saw this thing flying through the sky. They didn't know what it was, and it came out of the ocean at high speed and then went up into the sky. Not one person saying it because they were on the deck smoking a cigarette or something, but multiple sailors said, "Whoa, what is that? Look at that, look at that." And it came flying out of the water. Now, and that's actually a more recent case. So there's a lot of these cases which are not, they don't have video and photo evidence.
Right.
Because it happens too quick.
Yeah.
However, these things were witnessed by multiple people of credible background. And that's the thing that's really incredible. I myself, I witnessed something. I was on a U.S. submarine only as a guest, because I also do work for the Navy with my business FX models, as you mentioned. And as I was doing some special project work, and they said, "Hey, would you like to go out on a submarine into the Atlantic?" I said, "Of course." I didn't know what I was getting into. It was the best time I had getting seasick, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so while I was seasick on the boat, I was down sitting next to one of the kid at the sonar station. There was 4 sonar stations, and he was on the last one on the end on the right. And I sat to his left after asking permission, of course. And then I'm starting to drift off, closing my eyes, and all of a sudden I'm jolted awake by him yelling to the con sonar, fast mover, fast mover. And I jolted awake thinking, "Oh no, it's a torpedo. I'm going to die out here. Why did I say I'd go on this trip?" I really thought it was the end of my life. And it scared me, and terrified me. In fact, I was embarrassed at how terrified I was. And then the executive officer comes around the corner. And if you know the sonar setup, you can see it's kind of around the corner a little bit. And he just sort of nonchalantly walks up and says, "Oh, what do you got?" And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's got, he's got, guts to just be so calm. And then the kid turns to him, and it's noisy on the sub. You can't really hear a lot going on if they speak at average voices, if they're not directed at you.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear him give the bearing and the range to the executive officer, known as the XO. But then he said, "How fast is that moving?" And the kid held his hands out to his side, turned sideways in his seat, facing away from me, and loudly said, "Several hundred knots, sir." I mean, that's several hundred miles an hour underwater.
Wait.
We
So,
don't have any.
wait.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
I'm
you're
telling you the truth. That's
oh
what he
no, I
said.
believe you. So you're with the military. You're on a ship, military ship,
Yeah.
and someone
A
is
boat, yeah,
seeing,
submarine, yeah.
and you're in a submarine.
That was a submarine underwater, yeah.
So you're in a submarine, and they now see it is something on radar, and it's
Sonar.
sonar. I'm sorry, and it's traveling. You said several hundred miles per hour.
Underwater. That's correct. That was my first introduction to unknown submerged objects, USOs.
Now look, you're an astronomer. You're a bright man.
And I was questioning myself the whole time, let me tell you.
Well, okay. For those of you if you're just tuning in, I'm Bishop Long. We're talking to our new friend, Marc. Is it Dantonio? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. We're speaking to our friend, and I appreciate him being on. He has a degree in astronomy. He is it's a very important role that he plays in MUFON, and we've talked about this. And I'm telling you, he also is the host of Sky Tour Radio and KGREDB Radio, and a creator of Sky Tour live streams on YouTube. So, or tube to the youth. I can't say that because getting punished in TikTok, but nonetheless.
Well, it's Sky Tour live stream on TikTok too.
No, it's oh, there we go, TikTok. So you're telling me that you're in a submarine and they see something on sonar. So if it's something on sonar, could it be? Is it always, for those people who are not maybe necessarily advanced or knowledgeable on sonar, when they pick things up on sonar, does that mean it's always metallic or metal, some type of metal or machinery, or can it be, let's just say, an animal? Let's just say.
Yes, it could be a whale. A whale singing will come in through sonar because it's sound. All it has to be is sound.
Okay.
If you poke a tin can underwater, the sound will travel 10 times further underwater than it will on land. Okay, because sound really is well transmitted by water. Okay. So
could it have been some type of sound that something was emitting, which obviously they saw several hundred miles per hour. Is that possible?
No, and the reason why is because the sound would still have to emanate from something moving that fast. Okay, because if a sound wave passes you, there's nothing else behind it to see or hear. Okay, so basically the object is going to be moving past the submarine at high speed, and it's not the only case. The USS Hampton had the same thing happen with its sailors on board one year, and other navies have been reporting unknown submerged objects that go full ocean depth and whisk themselves way to the surface very quickly. Now, I'm a science guy. Right. Did I necessarily believe this stuff at first? I was like, how could that possibly work? And I've talked to a lot of other physicists and astronomers like me and tried to say, what can possibly explain what's happening here?
Right.
And no one can explain it, but guess what? No one says, well, that's just baloney. I don't believe it. Because they know enough, at least in my circles, they know enough to be open-minded. Right? Because I'm an open-minded guy. I'm science has this tendency to be very arrogant in some places, in some circles. And that's not me. I just can't be, because there's too many things I've seen and experienced that just don't fit.
So what do you think this was? I mean, traveling underwater at several hundred miles per hour. I mean, what do you think this was?
Well, let's say what it's not, and let's look at the possibilities. Remember my funnel of processing. I went through this, and I thought, okay, could this be some type of reflected sound coming off of another moving object, several moving objects that just happen to be in the way?
Right.
I thought about that. Like 4 ships in the distance, and sound got emanated to one, hit us, went back, and we got it just a little bit later. Could it have been that? The answer was no, because the sonarman on a boat knows every single sound. They can identify a ship by the sound that the propeller makes. They can tell you what it was. They can tell you if all of the blades of the propeller are intact, or if there's some with chips or barnacles. They can hear and understand and see all that. They're very good at that. So what else it wasn't was another weapon of some kind, because there's no weapons on Earth yet that we have that move several hundred miles an hour underwater. Now, some of your listeners are going to say, oh, but the Squall torpedo from Russia. Yes, it does. It goes about 200 miles an hour. But guess what? It's a steam torpedo. It leaves a trail of steam behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? That is so loud. It's the loudest thing in the ocean. And this was nearly silent.
Well, and why would a torpedo be launched towards you guys in the first place? I mean, that's an act of war. That's an act of war. So
yeah, and that wouldn't happen.
Right.
So, and in my estimation, and everybody in the boat, it didn't happen. Now, there's more to the story, because after that happened, the sonar guy told him all those things. And of course, I'm very familiar with these things they're calling fast movers on this boat. So I got up and I went over to the XO and said, sir, I'm very familiar with these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with? He looked at me and he said, Dantonio, right? Sir, yes, sir. Are you having a good time? Sir, yes, sir. Let's keep it that way. And he walked away. Okay. So, in other words, need to know. And even though I had the ability to know what they were looking at that clearance level at the time, I wasn't in that program. And it was actually beyond the XO's level as well.
Wow.
And so it was about 4 years later, after I got off that boat, I started looking into USOs. And that just struck me as, wow, this is really cool stuff. And it made sense. If they're here from another world, they're not going to be on the far side of the moon. They're going to be in our oceans because they can. And it's the perfect place to observe us, you know?
So basically, are you saying that you think this was, in fact, some type of alien craft?
I don't doubt that possibility exists, yes. And we can't deny the possibility, let's put it that way. And I'll tell you why. I remember that quote from the Astronomer and from the XO about the fast mover program. A few years later, 4 years to be exact, I had to do a job for the Joint Chiefs. And I had to take a project down to the Joint Chiefs and deliver it personally to one of the chiefs. And while I was sitting with him, I said to him, and my mind was saying, don't ask, don't do this. And the words were already coming out. Sir, what can you tell me about the fast mover program? And he looked at me and I was like, oh no. And I actually covered my mouth like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm sorry, Mark, I can't talk about that program. And I was like, oh, it's real. They do have such a program. So I found out through other submariners and other countries' submariners that these things are seen all over the world by many different navies.
Wow.
And I look back at history. There's a lot of people that have chronicled these and wrote books about them. I haven't, but and one, like for instance, a Japanese cargo ship, the Kitsukawa Maru, was traveling toward Japan, and their crew all saw these discs fly out of the water, and they had the presence of mind to mark the latitude and longitude of this location exactly. And the Japanese crew, not prone to lying, not prone to telling tall tales, they passed that information on. And I looked at the latitude and longitude, and guess where it is? It's right at the bottom end of the Marianas Trench, almost exactly. And the Marianas Trench, as many people know, is the deepest part of our ocean.
Right. Okay. So we've had this conversation for 10 minutes. What do you think it was? To me, it sounds like there's no other way that I can possibly. I mean, was it human? It doesn't sound like it was, man-made.
No, I agree with you. I do not think it was human-made. I do believe that it was very likely extraterrestrial in origin. And guess who else thinks that too? Our U.S. Navy.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. In fact, they now instruct their students for surface Navy and undersea Navy in how to handle these situations. By the way, the sighting, if you call it that, the experience on the boat that I had, you ready for this? It was decades ago. Decades, plural. So these things have been in our waters probably for hundreds of years. And they probably come and gone. They end up on cave walls as pictographs. Okay, they end up in culture as paintings and so forth. So there's a lot of influence these have had. I mean,
Wow.
in Australia, the Kimberley region up northern end of Australia, there was a group of creatures called Wandjina. Wandjina and the Aboriginal people that came up with this, the Wandjina were said to have come from the sky, live under the sea, and have full mastery of the water. And that's interesting because they make these diagrams and pictographs, paintings on the walls of caves, and they show alien faces like the Greys that we're so used to seeing with the big eyes and the tiny little mouths. This is what they show. And they have, and this is somewhat controversial, but I discovered that in all around the world, many times the deities that people show have halos around their heads. And the interesting thing about that to me is that, and two things can be true at once. It could be a deity, but could also be some type of biological screen to prevent germs from getting in to an advanced technology. Because they're going to work the same way we do, by the way. They're carbon-based most likely, and they're probably going to utilize oxygen like we do. And I think that's kind of important, you know?
So let me ask you this: can you just, for those and moderators on TikTok, if you could just remind people, our guests, so when people are coming in, that way there's a lot of new people coming in. That way, we don't have to keep reminding people over and over. If you guys can just, that'd be great. Thanks, Bill. So can you describe a particularly memorable UFO video or photograph that you have analyzed and that really was memorable, and what made it stand out to you?
Yeah, sure. Because as you know, and I mentioned, we have these remote observatories out in the Arizona desert. We call them Sky Tour live stream. That's what we do, and then they're on YouTube, etc. A lot of social platforms, and TikTok. I have a TikTok channel too for Sky Tour live stream, all one word. And one of the things that I noticed, we have an all-sky camera at our Sonoran Desert location. We have 2 observatories. In the Sonoran location, I watched an object come through and make an abrupt turn off at an angle. And it looked to me like a satellite until it wasn't. It came across the sky and then took an abrupt turn and went down another direction.
Yeah, satellites.
It wasn't an aircraft.
Satellites certainly. And how far? You say that you were in an observatory. How far would you say this was? Was it in Earth's atmosphere? Was it in space?
It looked to me, based on seeing all the other satellites that night, which all go in straight lines, as you are probably about to know. These satellites, they arc up, they disappear on the Terminator when they go across the Terminator of the Earth, the dark side of the Earth from their perspective. And this one ended up came from the eastern horizon, or western horizon, sorry, went up into the sky, and then when it got almost near the top to the zenith, right overhead, it abruptly took like a 40-degree turn and took off in another direction. And I would say it looked to me like it had to be, minimally the altitude of the space station, which is 200 plus miles.
Wow.
Now, we're very bad at estimating distances when we don't have another observation point, but I was comparing it to the brightness of satellites. And so this was about 200 miles, I would say. Another one was I saw this amazing object in the sky on my all-sky cam, and I saw this half circle in the sky, a really tiny half circle. If the all-sky cam image was, say, 12 inches across, the circle was about a half inch in size, okay, in diameter. So there was half an inch of circle, okay, sorry, a curve that goes like diameter about a half inch. And then the next frame was another 24 seconds. So it was a 48-second time it took for this to do it. And it did one half circle, and you see a light. And then it did the other side of the circle, and you still saw the light, the same brightness. Now, if that was, say, a military jet on maneuvers, first of all, could it make that tight a turn? And the answer is probably not, unless it was exceedingly high in the atmosphere. But if it did, would you see it the entire time? What are the bright things that you see on one of these military jets? The exhaust. And the exhaust is bright, and you'll see it halfway around anyway. But then when it's coming toward you, you won't see it. So at most, I should have seen a half a circle. I saw the whole circle. And that didn't make any sense. So that was odd. The changing direction thing was odd. So I feel that the night sky is underwatched.
Mm. Yeah, no
Yeah.
question. No question about that. And so, in your opinion, what would you say is the most credible sightings reported to MUFON in recent years? Is there anything at all that, like, in your opinion, okay, that's extraterrestrial without question?
I haven't been able to identify any that were specifically extraterrestrial, but I will say, and of course, how can we, right? We don't know. But I will say that because I work on the History Channel show, The Proof Is Out There, as their chief photo and video analyst as well, and I just did a case for them for season 5 coming up, and I'm not trying to plug it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure.
And this was the one of the very few that I said I can't explain this. So over time, some of that has happened. The USS Omaha case, which I got, that was odd. I couldn't explain that. The story about the guy with the 16 millimeter camera filming these silver objects moving through the sky, that I couldn't explain. The lights over Washington, D.C., I couldn't explain that one. That was way back in, I guess, when was that? The late 40s or something, or 50s. I don't remember the exact date. And of course, I'm still on the fence about Roswell and so forth. And
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Roswell. So you're on the fence. You have not made a decision as to whether or not that was extraterrestrial or, as they call it, a weather balloon.
Yeah, I think that people in that area know all about weather balloons.
Right.
Okay. They've certainly seen them all the time. So I felt that explanation was lacking, to be kind.
So because they even described this like metallic substance or fabric, if you would, that they would crumble it and would just, it would just straighten out basically this whatever it was.
Yeah.
I've heard. And then of course I've also heard and I read where the people that actually saw it and then they reported it, and then their stories completely changed when the military got involved, which seems obviously a little bit strange to me. I don't think you have to be a ufologist to figure out something is it's not a conspiracy theories. I mean, they just changed their complete and total story when the military got involved.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things that's really weird, and this is a thing that bothers me, for years and years and years and years, did I say years and years? The military has been denying that this activity is out there.
Right.
Now suddenly, they're saying, okay, we admit it. There's stuff happening, but we can't guarantee it's extraterrestrial. Do you realize the shift in the attitude of the U.S. government and the governments around the world all of a sudden? U.S. pilots could never say there was a UFO in the sky.
True.
Now they can, and they do.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a shift?
I think it's a shift because the U.S. government coined a new word. They called it UAP, not UFO. UFO connotes tinfoil hat and crazy people with blow-up aliens. That's what it connotes. That's what it tries to portray. And it has for years, because people have successfully beaten down the possibility. When the government coins a term called UAP, well, now it's different. And now you have Navy fighter pilots saying, yes, we saw these things we couldn't explain. And that's another video that I can't explain, is the Tic Tac and the others, that can't explain those. Some I can, some I can't. So now you have the U.S. government saying, well, we know there's things that don't make sense. And by the way, there's a fast mover program for subsea sailors as well to report. And the U.S. Navy's position on underwater anomalies like this: observe and report, do not engage.
And of course, we're going to, Bill mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit in a moment about your personal possible, not this one, your personal possible ET experience in your home. And so we're going to talk about that in just a second. And the nasal probe and your ghost dog in your workshop. So we'll talk about those in just a second. I'm looking forward to having that conversation. But so have you observed any recent developments in the UFO technology or phenomena that are particularly intriguing to you?
Well, I believe that All that's keeping us from discovering whether they're actually here or not is their technology. And little by little, we're learning to pierce their veil and get through it. I've worked with other scientists. I've worked with a FLIR scientist, a good friend of mine named Dave Mason. He's fantastic. And we were talking just yesterday, actually, through Messenger. And Dave and I have ideas for trying to detect underwater anomalies. And I used to work, before he passed away, unfortunately, with Douglas Trumbull, famous special effects guy. I worked with him for 10 years. And we were working on an aerial and an underwater system to be able to detect anomalous craft in our skies. So there's other people out there developing similar technologies. More is better. Okay, we should have people out there that can do this and have the technology to bring to bear, because all we have to do is pierce their veil, and we have to some extent.
You would think that if they're so advanced when it comes to technology, which clearly they must be, then you would also think that they are far more advanced as far as being able to cloak or even hide, perhaps maybe even being monitored through our technology. Because you're considering, look, if you got some type of UAP, for example, going 200 miles per hour, even 300 miles per hour underwater, and we can pick it up on sonar, and that's all fine and good. But if they're that advanced in technology, you would think that there would be a way that they could easily escape our radar or sonar capabilities, wouldn't you?
Yeah, actually, everything you said was a good assumption, except the word easily. Okay, they still have to live within the physics of our universe. Okay, and the physics of our universe means that if you suddenly appear at a spot under the ocean, you're going to make a noise. That's the physics of displacement of ocean water rapidly. Okay, so that's going to happen, and you can't really control that, And so the same thing goes for when you look at a craft moving across the sky, right? It's going to pick up light from stuff hitting it. Or if it's self-illuminated, there's no way they're going to stop the light from leaving their craft. Okay, they can. In fact, one of the most popular lectures I give is on how they may travel interdimensionally. Now, I mentioned this to you before. I think I've worked with Avi Loeb on a few television programs. He's the chairman of astrophysics at Harvard. And Avi just said probably less than a year ago that he believes aliens could possibly be traveling interdimensionally. And I've been giving a lecture on this for the last 3 or 4 years now. So it's starting to reach mainstream science, and this possibility is something that is really, really important, because that's probably the only way that they can actually be here from far away. I mean, think about it. At the fastest possible speed we can go, right? It would take us 10,000 minimal years to get to Alpha Centauri, the nearest star.
Yeah.
It took us 10 years to get to Pluto at the fastest speed we were able to muster in a probe. So the universe is very large. The scale is incredibly immense. The sun, which gives you light every day, it hits you in the face, you feel that heat hitting you in the face. That's traveled 93 million miles. And to do that at the speed of light, which is 182,262 miles per hour, that's 7 times around the Earth in a second, by the way, a little over. It still took it 8 minutes to get here. So the scale is massive. So you would have to create technologies that kind of negate that whole scale. And that's the process that I think they use. And I have a way through my friend Bob Schroeder, who actually wrote a book on it. I have a way of sharing that with people so they can see how aliens really could go from here to very, very long distances away in just a few minutes, not in tens of thousands of years.
So if in fact they're traveling interdimensional, is it possible that when their final stop could be actually in the water itself, when they manifest, whether or not be through their universe or their solar system, whatever it is that they're traveling from, and to get here, isn't it possible that instead of arriving here into our airspace and then entering into the water, making a noise, making a splashing noise, who's to say that if they're not interdimensional flight, that they can actually pinpoint, now we're going to appear there, and we're going to appear in the water where there is no flash or splash or sound.
That is correct. And what you say is actually correct. They could just appear there. And in fact, I think they do. And the reason that they can do this has to do with the ability of them to leave the 4 dimensions, X, Y, and Z, moving through time. You have an X coordinate and a Y coordinate and a Z coordinate, left, up, and, a 3-dimensional coordinate at a certain point in time. Well, if you want to go to like 10 feet away, you can walk you can walk to the next coordinates, and you travel the space between the first place you were standing and the second place you're about to end up. You travel that distance. Well, what if there's a way to not have to travel the distance? Okay, well, that is the technology we're talking about. And this is something that actually has surprising potential physics behind it. And that's the thing. So I call it punch out, punch in technology. The actual technology has to do with something called Kaluza-Klein gravitons, which, by the way, CERN has been investigating. Why? Well, because they think they're very interesting. So although the graviton particle has not been found yet, it's very, very difficult to see gravitons. We know photons of light. We know protons and electrons as particles, right? And we know that the particles can also exhibit waves. Like light can be a wave, okay? It can be red light, which is a wave, like a sine wave, and up and down, like an ocean wave. And it can also be a particle of light. It has what's called duality. It can be both. So because it can be both, we know that that's how the fundamental particles act as well. But gravity doesn't do that. Gravity's the weirdo. So that means that gravity is not entirely part of our 4 dimensions, our X, Y, and Z in time. So it means that it's out there somewhere. It means that it's somewhere else.
Okay, so let me ask you a real quick question. Starla is asking, because people are saying, woo, this is over their heads. Does the equal space-time continuum, does that equal space-time continuum is what Starla is asking?
Well, here's where that goes, okay? In our 4 dimensions, if you move from your kitchen to your dining room, you're still in this universe. You haven't gone anyplace.
Right.
But if you could magically transfer yourself from the kitchen into the dining room without walking to the dining room, that's what this technology is. These aren't wormholes, things that we talk about in a science. It's not a wormhole thing. It's actually an entirely different thing. You go from the kitchen into another dimension, and then you pop in and appear in the dining room.
Okay, but how do you open these dimensions? I mean, because for those of you who don't, first of all, let's explain. And I know, guys, so we gotta do the science. We have to explain it. But first of all, in layman's terms, how would you describe a wormhole? And then in layman's terms, how would you describe opening entering into an interdimensional portal, if you will?
Okay, well, here's where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a wormhole,
yep,
a wormhole is a special gravity-fed object that can link you from one place in the universe to another, like a tunnel. Okay. Now, the problem with wormholes is that they are theoretical right now. Number one. Number two, and all this is theoretical, obviously, right? But the other thing that's a problem is that they're unpredictable. We can't make them, and we don't know how to specify where it's going to go. All right. So that's what's very different about this. And so that's the wormhole side. Now, in terms of the interdimensional travel, well, that's actually easier to follow. And here's why. Because how do you get to that other dimension is the question. And I understand it well, and I'm pretty sure that I can make it clear. The interdimensional travel is accomplished by creating particles that come from that other dimension and surrounding your spacecraft with them. So when you do that, the particles want to go home to that other dimension. And guess what? If they're surrounding your ship, they're going to take your ship with it. And now you're in this, what's called the 5th dimension. All right. And this 5th dimension is a very, very compressed universe. If you're in there, the farther in you go, the smaller the universe is around you. So, example, if you are standing here in your kitchen and you travel 12 inches, you go 12 inches. But if you were to get yourself into that fifth dimension by generating these particles, and I can talk about how that's done too, then those particles will drag you into the fifth dimension. And now if you're in there, let's say just a little bit of the way, and you travel 12 inches in there, when you come out, you might find that you traveled 2 miles away, because that 12 inches will be expanded, all right, because it's covering more space in the compressed universe.
So are you expanding time and space?
In a sense, you are.
So if you're expanding time and space, doesn't that have a ripple effect on other dimensions, if you will, or even that particular dimension that you're in?
It only affects you, because you are not affecting anything in other space-time other than yourself. So, for instance, you could actually go in there and accidentally turn off the thing generating your particles around your ship, and you'll just be destroyed. All right, you can. It's dangerous, theoretically dangerous. So I think this is something that is very important. Okay, so there would be no butterfly effect, for example. There would be no ripples. The only way you'd have a butterfly effect is if you were going back in time and making changes. This isn't changing that. In this whole scenario, time only moves forward. There's no back in time here.
All right, so there you go. That answered that question. Someone that started was asking a butterfly effect. So let me ask you. Let's talk about your personal ET experience in your home. Why don't you tell us that story about it?
Yeah, this one is one that I just never expected to experience, and it's one of the things that opened my mind. Now, in fact, it's also the reason one of the major reasons I moved out of the other house. I just couldn't stay there anymore. It was such a violation. So I was sleeping, and over the course of 3 nights, I kept being awakened at 3:15 in the morning, 3 nights, and I heard this knocking. It was going bang, 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 bang on the peak of my roof. Single family home, a cape, okay, with a dormered roof. So the ladder, the one side of the roof is flat, and the other side sloped down to the street. And I'm on the second floor, and I heard it. I looked at the clock at 3:15 in the morning. Go, what is that? All right, I went back to sleep. In the morning, I went to work, came home, and then did whatever I did that night. Went to bed. Again, I'm awakened. I look at the clock. It's 3:15 in the morning. And I'm getting bang, 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 bang. 3 knocks, a series of 3 series of 3 knocks. Okay, I don't understand what that was. So this time I got up, and at the time I had rescued greyhound dogs from the track, and because I hate seeing what they do to them. And I had 2 dogs, and they were named Tycho and Kepler, Astronomer's dogs. Okay, and Tycho and Kepler were sleeping under the window where this sound was coming from. And it was coming from the peak of the roof over their heads. And they're both looking up with their heads moving side to side, like trying to decipher where the sound's coming from. And so I lean over them, hold onto the windowsill. It was an August night, and I pushed my face against the screen and try to look up. What's up there? I thought maybe it was a crazy woodpecker trying to get something from vinyl siding, because the house was vinyl sided. Well, as I did that, I suddenly got this bright flash of white light in my face, and I just froze. And I just froze, and I was like, "Whoa, what was that?" And I, looking out the window, I see nothing, and then there's one street light in the distance that was starting to bleed back into the view, and the area around it was getting brighter and brighter, and I could start to see again. I realized, holy cow, I've been flash blinded. As an astronomer, I'm well aware of what flash blindness is. So I thought, I was flash blinded. What is that? So I went over to my wife, who was sleeping in the bed, and I shoved her. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just remember I did that, will you?" Okay. And I would call it a reality check, right? Trying to make sure that you're not having some ultra realistic dream, which can happen. Mm-hmm. So I went back to bed. In the morning, I wake up and I forgot all about it, like it didn't happen. And I'm downstairs, and I've gotten dressed and taking my shower, about to go to work, and she comes up and hits me in the head. "What did you hit me for?" Whoa! Then it all came flooding back. And I said, And I explained what happened. And she said, "You're nuts." And I went to work. Well, the next night was when the game changer happened. I woke up again. And this time I went, "Oh, come on, again?" And I went to look at the clock and I couldn't move my head. So I automatically tried to just look with my eyes, and my eyes were frozen, fixed forward. I couldn't move my eyes either. I'm like, well. Now I'm getting hot and thinking terrified, like, what the heck? Is this a medical event? What's going on? And then in my peripheral vision, I see something pass in front of the window that was outlined very dimly by that distant street light. You can see the frame of the window a little bit. And something passed in front of that window frame, and it started coming toward me. I'm like, what's going on? And this thing came toward me, and I couldn't see a face, but I saw this arm. It was below my vision. I couldn't look down at it. I couldn't look to my right up at this face. So I saw vaguely what was up there, and it brought this like a magic wand and stuck it up my nose. And then boom, it was morning, and I was unable to breathe.
So that was a nasal probe.
I guess, yeah. I don't know what it was.
It's interesting. 315, the number 3 in numerology. It's creativity, communication, joy, or optimism. And 15 represents compassion, for healing and nurturing. Many people think 315 in numerology, it's a sign to tap into intuition, embrace a creative side, be open to spiritual growth or transformation. It's interesting that 315. So what do you think that was? Do you think this was just a lucid dream, or do you think this was something other than that?
Well, for years I had practiced being a lucid dreamer, and I always could be. I could control my dreams, and I was trying to control this, and I was totally out of power. I could not do it. I literally felt like I was being pushed around and controlled. And when I woke up that morning, I pushed off the pillow and found out I couldn't breathe because I was trying to inhale my own blood. The pillow concavity where I was lying on my face, I never sleep like that. Who does? Was filled with blood, and I was trying to inhale it, and so it woke me up. And maybe I maneuvered into that position. I don't know. But anyway, it felt like I got punched in the head really hard, punched in the face. So this was a terrifying encounter, and I did what anybody does who has something like this happen. I immediately got up, took a shower, and went to work and forgot about it, like it never happened. Now, from that moment on, I couldn't breathe out of my left sinus of my left nostril. I couldn't breathe. And for 2 years, I let that go. And every time I said, I got to go get this taken care of. I got to have this looked at. My mind would say, nah, don't bother. It's okay. Hey, not being able to breathe out of half of your nose, that's kind of a big one.
And did you ever get it checked out?
I did.
Okay.
In fact, this is on public record too. Harvard Hospital, Dr. Lehman. Okay. I went to him. I filled out the intake form, what brings you here, etc. And I always make little joking cartoons and pictures for the medical assistants that have to read it. And he walks in and he says, "Oh, my medical assistants love you. So what's wrong?" So I said, "Yeah, I can't breathe out of this sinus." And he looks up there with a probe, and he looks and he says, "Holy cow," he says, "you've got something huge up there." I went, "Oh, really?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "If that's a polyp," he says, "that's the largest one I've ever seen. And I've been doing this for like 35 years or whatever he said." It was almost, I don't remember the years, but he said that. So he says, "I think we can get it out." So he numbed it and he got in there, he pulled it out. And it was literally this giant thing the size of your thumbs stacked together that came out through that little tiny hole on the left side of your nostril. My first comment to him was, "Can I have that? Can I take that with me?" They went, "Oh, no, I got to send it down to pathology and have them make sure it's okay." He says, I'm pretty sure it's benign, but I'll have them check it out." Okay. And I said, "Well, can you have them check the middle of it to see if there's something foreign in there?" And he said, "Oh, you mean like a splinter that a machinist might get?" I said, "Yes, exactly. Sure, I can do that. Why? Do you think there's something in there?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And I told him the story I just told all of you. And he laughed. He goes, "I'm sure it's not aliens." And I said, "Oh, no, of course not." And of course, I was not at all convinced, because this was an experience that I did not think was human technology. And he said, give me a call in a week. I'll let you know what we find. Okay, that's fine. So I went home, called him in a week. Yeah, hi, it's Marc Dantonio. Oh, hold on. Doctor has to talk to you. I went, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm thinking this is so, oh no, is my head going to fall off? What happened to me? He gets on the phone. Oh, hello, Mr. Dantonio. I just wanted to let you know that it's probably benign. Okay. So nothing to worry about. And I went, oh, so you haven't got the results back yet. And that's when I heard this long pause. And he said, well, this has never happened in my office before, direct quote. But I sent it down to pathology, and they seem to have lost it.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, that didn't end the story. I mean, I said, okay, fine. All right, well, the great, good. It's benign. Excellent. I'm out of here. Thank you. 2 years after that, I went back to him for another thing that I was there for, a vocal cord thing. I forget. And I this time I put on my intake sheet, besides the cute little pictures that the medical assistants like, I added my occupation. I said I do special projects for the Navy. Now that's kind of a code word for people that work in those programs, and I've been doing that for decades. So he comes in and he says, he goes, yeah, my medical assistants really do love you. They love your pictures. He goes, but I see here, you said you do special projects. And I told him, yeah, and I explained to him, to the extent I could, the kind of stuff that I would do, without being obviously specific. And he sat down on the exam table with me. Have you ever seen a doctor do that? And he was sitting right to my right, and I'm like kind of scooching to the left, like, man, this is awkward. And he's looking out the window, and he's thinking, he says, I just gave up my top secret clearance this year. I went, what? What are you operating on top secret nasal polyps? What is this? And he goes, oh no, he goes. And then he got serious. He goes, I haven't always been a surgeon, And he described a incident that he was not in charge of, but a major player in the 60s called Project Starfish. I think it was in the 60s. And the idea was they were going to explode a nuclear bomb up in the ionosphere to see, quote unquote, ostensibly, what a nuclear bomb does to the ionosphere. That was what the public heard. But he said that's not what actually happened. What they actually did was use the EMP pulse to take down an enemy satellite. Okay. And I said, wow, well, doesn't that violate all kinds of treaties? And he said, well, sure. He said, but that's why we cleared the Pacific for 1,600 miles all the way around the atoll where we shot this from. Like, holy cow, that's incredible. Wow. So I was blown away by that, but now I knew what happened. Because whenever you're in that world, one of the things that's really important is that you, as someone who has any kind of clearance in the government, if you see something that may violate national security, you've got to call it in. You are bound by law to do that. So I can see how the conversation went. Yeah, hi, this is Dr. So-and-so from Harvard Hospital. And I got a patient here who says that he had some kind of encounter where something shoved something up his sinus, and there was a finding, and it's down in our pathology area. And that was the end of it.
Well, and honestly, I've talked to many people who've had that type of experience that you're describing, and with the nasal probes, and it's not. Here's what's scary about this: it's not uncommon with people who have been abducted through alien abductions. This is not uncommon. Matter of fact, Willie Windwalker Gibson and his wife Shaman talk about their experience. I want to talk about also this ghost dog in your workshop.
Oh, yeah.
In your workshop.
Oh, yeah.
Please tell us what's that about?
Well, the weird thing is, I had excuse me, I had a coughing attack here just now from just getting over a sickness. And I was working on a project for Doug Trumbull. We were working on a movie about Nikola Tesla. And I just finished this prop. I'm really proud of it. And as I'm sitting there working on it, now I had these images of people that weren't there. I could see people walking around that weren't there. Things that people would call ghosts. I see them all the time. All right. And they were getting annoying, actually. I went to a neurologist. I had special monitors on my brain because maybe they all thought, as I did, that my brain was replaying scenes that it had seen in the past. And the trauma to that part of the brain that they operated on, maybe this was a latent image problem with the brain. I don't know. Well, anyway, as I saw this dog thing walk in, and everything I saw was sort of semi-transparent. And the neurologist had this great way of, oh, well, that's happening in this part of the brain. The image is not complete. And I understood the medicine. I understood that. The physics of how the brain works. I got that. And then he said, so I'm sure that this is not a real object, but just something your brain is manufacturing. Okay, I ran with that thinking, well, it's a medical diagnosis. It's something I'm going to have to deal with. And they said, oh, we can give you all kinds of drugs. We can do this. No, you know what? Forget it. I'm getting used to it. I'm not going to take drugs. So anyway, as I'm sitting there working on this prop for the movie, in comes this thing. It's like a little yap dog. It's getting going bink, 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 bink across the floor. And then it looks like it's spinning around. I couldn't really see the front or the back of it. I didn't know what was the front or the back. And then it lays down, I guess, and then goes through this rhythmic motion like it's licking its fur or something. So I'm watching this, and I'm staring directly at it. This isn't like one of those things where you're very, very tired and things kind of come in your vision. You go, oh, what's that? What's that? It wasn't one of those. This was 3:30 in the afternoon. I was trying to get this prop ready to take up to the studio so we could film it. And this thing's in there, and I'm wide awake as I am now. And I'm looking at it. I walk over to it, and I'm like, I can see the other side of this thing. That means that my brain has to be building the side it didn't see. If this was just a projection and a playback of something I had already seen. So that was odd. So what I did next changed everything. And it actually took me down another path, which took me to other physicists and cosmologists at this point. And that was, I stepped on it with my left foot. And I felt the weirdest feeling. It felt like somebody took a bungee cord, which is an elastic cord, put it around the bottom of my heel against the floor and ran away through the point of my foot. I ran away, and I felt this tension increase because at the same time as that was happening, this creature, this dog thing, got up and ran out of my shop, and it took my leg with it. And I leaned in to try not to have my leg go, but it was already attached. I couldn't get it off. I couldn't lift it. It was like it was stuck. And then my left leg finally gave it up and just went whoop, and it flew out from under me. And in an instant, I saw my left foot up by the fluorescent lights, my right foot coming up at the same time, and now I was falling backwards. My right shoulder hit my workbench, turned me to the side on my left, where I hit my left shoulder on the concrete, and then whacked my head on the concrete. And I was like, wow. So I was hurting both shoulders. My left knee was hyperextended, and I bloodied my head. And I got up going, oh my God, what was that? Oh, that was so cool. Wow. Ow, ow. It was all pain. So I did this, and I immediately realized I got to go to the ER because this was just crazy. Stuff I never expected as a science guy. So I went there, and I didn't tell them the story. I just told them, yeah, I injured my shoulder. They x-rayed it, and they looked at it, and they said, oh, man. He goes, yeah, you got some damage there. Let's hope you didn't damage your rotator cuff. So it was about a week or so later, I went back again, and he said, yeah, you don't have any mobility there much. And I go, no, I can raise it about halfway up. And he said, you have a frozen shoulder. So that embarked me on 6 weeks of rehab to get the frozen shoulder back. But that happened. And I mean, at first you thought, well, maybe they're right. It's just projections. But wait a minute. Do projections grab onto you and run out of the room and take your foot with it?
Right.
That's what happened to me in there. I don't know what that was. And I don't have any skin in the game on this. I don't care, there's no reason for me to say things like this if they're not real to me.
Well, it sounds like you certainly had a very odd paranormal experience with that. No question about that. No question.
I mean, And I called, sometimes because of the experiences I've had, I've said, well, look, today's paranormal could be tomorrow's science.
That's right. Very true.
And so I firmly believe that's true because we've had that happen,
Well, I want to thank you so very much for stopping by and chatting with us. I mean, these stories are absolutely, they're just captivating. They're really anytime you experience a different perspective, especially from a scientist's perspective, it is interesting, especially when you talk about the unknown. But anyway, folks, make sure you please visit Marc's website, skytourlive.org. All right, it's SKY Tour, TOUR live, skytourlive.org. Make sure you visit his website. Are there any other sites that you would like for people to know about it?
Yeah, I missed what you said there. You were.
Are there any other sites that you want us to let people know about?
Oh, sure. Yeah, my TikTok is Sky Tour Live, and that's the TikTok. And I need people to follow on Sky on TikTok too. Anyway, but then SkyTourLive.org. We are. I am a nonprofit with the observatories, and we do. Specifically, there's good science. We show people. And by the way, whenever we take photos of galaxies, I just posted on my Facebook page, which you can go to at Marc Dantonio. Mm-hmm. We also have a Sky Tour Live Facebook group. You'll see 2 galaxies I took the other night, and it was just a few seconds each because we have these gorgeous telescopes. And so, yeah, SkyTourLive.org, Sky Tour Live, TikTok. Hang out with us.
Very cool.
Really have your perspective changed.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll send you a little message a little bit later on, thanking you properly. So thank you for stopping by and chatting with us.
Thank you so much, Bishop Long. It's been fun.
You have a great night.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. That was our friend, our new friend that we have here. It's Marc Dantonio. And I tell you what, some of those stories are pretty, crazy. If you think about, when you have a scientist that's science, obviously logic, and some of these experiences, it opens your minds. That's for certain. Let me open up. I'm going to open up everybody on TikTok. All we ask is that everybody on TikTok just be kind. If you're not kind, I'm going to put sub chat right back on. Okay. So yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, Mr. Producer has just let me know that we still have 50 free Kindles are still available right now. So if you want a free Kindle, KGRADB Radio is giving them out. So for those of you who are on TikTok, just go to Bill Skywatcher, all one word, Bill Skywatcher. Make sure you follow him. Just follow him. He's Mr. Producer. He does a lot of great lives and videos. Bill Skywatcher, all one word. That's all you got to do is look for that. And then when you've done that, then you go to KGRADB.com. And you'll see right there, you put your information in, you get a free Kindle. They're giving away a Kindle tonight and tonight only. So a lot of people maybe have not heard about it because there's new people coming in. Guys, get a free Kindle. It's free. Why not? So make sure, but you got to go there now because KGRADB, what's it? The Kindle book. Right. So make sure you head on over there, guys. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, well, I don't know. It's a free Kindle. That's right. I'm not bringing anybody up here because I see. Please understand that I run the show on 2 different computers. So if I bring you up here, then folks on KGRADB Radio and all the other social media platforms won't be able to see or hear you because I have 2 different computers. So there you go. That's pretty cool. And the title is that it's Signals from the Threshold. So that's pretty cool. Sending a producer there. No one's calling in. All right. So there we go, folks. We appreciate. Let's. Here's some articles that I want to chat about. These are really, really cool. If you have a special, if you want to be a guest or something of this nature, then you can just send me a message on Book to the Face, and then we kind of go from there. All right, so that's pretty cool. Listen to this. Yeah, it's KGRAD as in dog, B as in boy.com. So KGRADB.com. And there you go. And that's the information for you. And they'll send you out what it is. For those of you who don't know, this is the title that they're going to be sending you is Signals from the Threshold. So the truth isn't coming, it's here. From Roswell to Rendlesham, from the USS Nimitz to Havana Syndrome, from radar pings to consciousness warfare. Signals from the Threshold is the groundbreaking new book that exposes declassified crash retrievals, DARPA, a neuroweapon program, reverse engineered UAP tech, and the global race to master the phenomena. The book isn't about aliens. It's about how reality is being rewritten and who's doing the rewriting. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, head on over there and you will get your free book. It's pretty cool. All right. Oh, cool. So that says that's what the book is about. It's new and will be officially released Monday. Okay. Let's talk about this really interesting article. I saw this and I thought, boy, that's pretty fascinating. This is by T.K. Randall. A father and son is reportedly, they said that they've encountered a Bigfoot in Monroe County, Michigan. Thank you. It says here, the creature, which was sighted on May the 18th, was described as the size of a bear with gorilla-like features. According to a report submitted to the Bigfoot Field Research Organizations, or BFRO, the encounter began at 11:30 a.m. when their dog became scared by something unseen nearby. Trees were shaking, the father wrote. We thought it was a group of deer. Things had seemed normal again for a while until sudden noise attracted their attention. As I heard a rustling in a tree to the left and a huge thud hitting the ground from the tree. He wrote, a big heavy animal hit the ground and crouched and started moving towards me through the bush. My dog fired off from the right of me toward the creature. Says the dog almost got to it, but the creature shot off extremely fast through the trees and brush, and the dog chased the creature up the slope and over the track trains. Says I then called for my dog to come back. Says my son said, what was that? It was as big as a bear, but it looked like a gorilla. And we walked back and we heard something crunching on the ground behind us. We left. Anyway, when a BFRO investigator later followed up on the story with two witnesses, they explained that the creature had stood upright with a hunched posture, but was around 6 feet tall and covered in hair. It had been standing up straight, would have likely been a lot taller. Exactly what it was, however, remains unclear. See, this is an interesting situation. We don't know what these things are. But here's the deal with this. There's way too many people. There's way too many people that's reporting seeing these bipedal creatures that are very tall. Matter of fact, I talked, and this is why I believe that Bigfoot exists. Because I had on my show several years ago, quite a few actually, I had, and I talked about this before. He worked as a game warden in Alaska. And he was absolutely convinced he saw Bigfoot. And I remember asking him, well, I mean, it could have been a bear. And I'll never forget what he said is, look, I'm a native Alaskan. We live in the woods. We hunt. We know I'm a game warden. If I don't know the difference between a bear, a moose, and a 7-8 foot bipedal creature, then I shouldn't be a game warden in Alaska. He was right. He's not selling a book. He's not trying to be on television. There's no ulterior motive. I believe based on what he said, he is absolutely convinced that he saw something. And I think he's right. Well, he clearly saw something. And it really, I think it bothered him because he couldn't explain what he saw. And the fact that he was a native Alaskan. Are demons? No. See, there's a lot of people think that Bigfoot and other creatures of this nature are maybe interdimensional beings. And our guest, Mark, was talking about interdimensional, possibility of these UFOs and things of this nature. Something is happening. Now, one thing I definitely want is I'm going to find a Bigfoot expert. And I'm not talking about somebody that just, watches YouTube videos. With all due respect, anybody can do that. I'm talking about somebody who's actually on the ground, who experiences, who is an investigator. And I would really like to chat with them and have them on the show about, okay, let's talk. Because there's too many people experiencing these creatures. And what they are, I don't know. But there's something because there's too many people experiencing these things. Now let's talk about this. This is a very interesting. Actually, Janelle, there is a case. I forgot what the information was, but there is a case once where someone claimed to have basically been taken by a Bigfoot, and maybe some of those of you who are experts in Bigfoot, that he was actually taken to like a family. A Bigfoot family or group, and told of his story. I know I read that somewhere, but I can't remember who that is. So we'll find that. Now, look, let's talk about Annabelle. Everybody keeps asking me about Annabelle as if I know. I don't know. I'm not, I'm not an expert on Annabelle. And I was friends with Lorraine Warren. I was not friends with Ed. And so therefore I can only tell you what she truly thought about, oh, wow. 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Well, that's pretty cool. I'll tell you what I'm doing in just a second. Well. I just sent this individual. Let's see what they say. All right. So we're actually getting a response right now. That's pretty cool. Okay. I'm going to give you guys. I'll clue you in on what we're doing, because I'm actually doing this right now as we have a conversation. So okay. Okay. We have a special little announcement here. So I know this is completely unprofessional, but that's okay. I've just confirmed that my friend, Father Bill Bailey, I was just speaking to him as a matter of fact. Good grief, Father Bob Bill. I looked down and saw Bill. Father Bob Bailey. He is a friend of mine. He is a Roman Catholic priest. He has been, in fact, he has been traveling with Annabelle. He had been on, all the shows with Ryan Buell. So he is traveling with Annabelle. and he is the priest that's blessing Annabelle. And he has just verified that he will be on the show with us June the 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we can talk about Annabelle, the tour, what he's doing, what he's experienced. And so it's pretty amazing that I was just having a conversation that he was right there answering it. So there you go. June the 6th. June the 6th. We will have Father Bob, and who is traveling with Annabelle. And so he knew Lorraine very, very well, worked with Lorraine often. And so anyway, I just want to let you know, yep, it's a done deal. So June the 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There we go. Okay. So that's pretty cool. What do you think about that? Yeah, Father Bobby is a great guy. He's a great guy. Big heart. Just, he knows his stuff, and there's no question about that. Okay, June 6th, that's locked in. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, Alfonso Liera just wrote this. A haunted doll, Annabelle, draws paranormal enthusiasts in San Antonio. This was written in May 17th. Paranormal enthusiasts in San Antonio have the chance to see the allegedly haunted doll, Annabelle, this weekend. The doll, which has inspired several TV shows and its own movie series, is believed to be possessed by a demon. Annabelle is currently on nationwide tour, allowing fans of the paranormal to view her in person. Today, she was on display at the Victoria's Black Swan Inn on the northeast side as part of the Psychic and Spirit Fest. The Black Swan Inn itself, a subject of paranormal interest, is reputed to be haunted by the spirit of a Confederate soldier, has been featured in several paranormal TV shows. Anyway, Annabelle, along with two other haunted items, will be on display again tomorrow, which, of course, is already on display. Anyway, she's going around, Annabelle the doll. This is another, for those of you who are in Gettysburg. So this was updated May the 21st. So for those of you who don't know, Annabelle is going to be arriving in Gettysburg July the 11th. So this is July the 11th. And this is by a news article, which of course I don't have who wrote this, unfortunately. It says the Annabelle in Gettysburg Devil on the Run tour is scheduled for Friday, July the 11th at the historic Soldiers Orphanage Homestead, located at 778 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The tour is part of the Paranormal Experience series featuring the infamous haunted doll Annabelle. Visitors will have the opportunity to explore the homestead during guided sessions highlighting tales of the supernatural, unexplained events, and the history behind one of Gettysburg's most well-known haunted locations. Tours will be offered at multiple times throughout the day, with general admission tickets available for the following time slots. Of course, it goes on. Each ticket is priced at $40. The event has received strong early feedback with an overall rating of 4.65 out of 5. Pretty cool. So the experience is designed for those interested in paranormal activity, local history, and unique immersive events. The Soldiers Orphanage Homestead is a well-known site in Gettysburg for ghost tours and historical events. So anyway, attendees are encouraged to arrive on time for the scheduled tour and to purchase tickets in advance, as space for each time slot is limited. So there you go, friends. If you're going to be in Gettysburg, July the 11th, they will have Annabelle at the historic Soldiers Orphanage Homestead. And therefore, you can write that down, and there you go. I've performed 33, Nana. Yeah. So, and the chat is not blocked. We put sub chat on because we don't deal with trolls here at all. And so that's why we put sub chat, because people can't behave. And so when they can't behave on TikTok, I put sub chat on because we don't tolerate nonsense. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So don't forget, June the 6th at 7 p.m., we're going to have my friend, Father Bob Bailey, who is accompanying Annabelle. All right. This is an interesting conversation that I think would like to have with all. This is very interesting when I saw this, and I want to share this with you and see what you thought. It's yeah. Yeah, see, a lot of people are collecting. I tell people all the time, stay away from collecting these items. Just stay away from them. You collect these items, it's very dangerous because you don't know what you're collecting. And this is why I made a video. I made a video about this the other day. Look, I know Father Bob knows what he's doing. That's fine. It's very nice of you, says Jennifer. So Father Bailey knows what he's doing. He's not a novice. So people are so, freaked out about the Annabelle and things of this nature. Look, here's what I know about Bob. He's not going to do anything. If he is present, he's not going to do anything to put anybody at harm. He just wouldn't. So he's highly trained in this, in demonology. He is a priest, and he's not going to allow anybody to get hurt. So anyway, I think we have to be careful about going to the extreme sensationalism. Look, here's the deal. I have a storage facility full of items that I have collected through the years. People buying these things and then sending them back to me, or sending them to me and saying, we don't want them. We don't want them. We don't like them. Activity has occurred in our home and it's terrifying us. So I do have quite a few of these cases. And people say, well, why do you collect them? I don't collect them like a collector. I remove them from people's homes. And then I bless their homes, all free, never charging. And then I take them to paranormal conferences. And I teach about these things because a lot of people are visual learners. So when they see it, then they're like, okay, now I understand. I get it. The hope is to convince people, stop collecting these things. Just stop collecting them. Thank you, Jonathan. It's dangerous. And here's what a lot of people are doing. They're going online and they're collecting these alleged haunted dolls. Number one, you have no idea what this person who owned that doll did prior to you taking ownership of it. I mean, there's people that could have done rituals. There's so many things and people are just buying these things, and you have no idea what that person did while they had this item in their possession. And this is why I'm telling you, just stay away from buying these things. And people are buying them. I mean, they're just buying them left and right. So I just, be careful about this. Burning these things is not going to fix the problem. Here's the issue. First of all, I knew Lorraine. I didn't know Ed. Lorraine did not like Annabelle at all. And she made it very, very clear. As a matter of fact, I even had her on the show once. She made it very clear she did not like Annabelle. She felt very uncomfortable with Annabelle. So she was not a fan of Annabelle, needless to say. She was absolutely convinced something evil was attached to that doll. 100%. And you weren't going to convince her of otherwise. So demonic entities will attach itself. First of all, they don't possess. Humans are possessed. Demonic beings will attach themselves to an object to entice, to cause you to fall into this trap to take it home. Just like the woman that I was on the show, the Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show that I'm on. This woman in the very first episode, she became obsessed with that doll, which I have. I mean, it was an obsession. And she even told me, she said, I would put a second mortgage on my home just to buy that doll. And it wasn't that expensive. So she said it didn't matter what it cost, what the cost was, I was going to buy it. She had done things when she was younger that she shouldn't have done. And she brought this doll home. And like I said, they've had like a McMansion. It was a 3-story home. It was in Tennessee. Beautiful home. And with a little, as soon as they brought this doll home, they had violent activity in their home. and they try to figure out what it was, what change had occurred, something. And the only thing that changed was that bringing that doll home. What was interesting about that particular doll, which I don't have it here with me, is when I was called by the chief, the firefighter, the chief of the firefighter chief, and they said, "Look, we want you to come here," and they saw me online or something, and I'm like, I don't know anything about fires. What am I supposed to do? I'm not but anyway, I drive up this long driveway, and I see just ash of this great big lot where this big beautiful home was, and the only thing that was there was all ash, where this house burnt down to a crisp. There was nothing there. The only thing was this ornate bookshelf and this doll sitting right on top of it. And when I pull up, I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why do they have this? I don't understand. So they show me where the house was, and then turn right in your formal living room. And I looked over and I saw this doll. It's a porcelain clown doll. What they don't understand, or the firefighter chief, he didn't understand how this doll could not have caught fire, or at least melted, because this whole entire home burnt to a crisp. There was nothing there. So that was intense heat. Now there are burnt marks on the actual the clothing of the doll, but as far as there's no burnt marks on the body, there's no burnt marks anywhere except for the clothing, and you can actually still smell the burning. You can smell the fire. I tell you what, and that's the doll, by the way, that caused my laptop to catch fire, and I'll never forget. It was at Louisville Mid-South Paranormal Conference, and I got distracted. People kept telling me, take it out of its case, and normally I never would, but they kept begging me, so I took it out of the case. As soon as I did, the entire room changed. I mean, it felt like a sauna. The whole room, it just changed. It was heavy, and people said, "Nope, put it back." As soon as I was going to put it back in its case, someone asked me a question. I got distracted. I put it next to my laptop. I turned around, and a firefighter, he was a volunteer firefighter, screamed at me, "Bishop Long, your laptop is on fire." The laptop was actually on fire. Now, this was seen by an entire room full of people at the Louisville Mid-South Paranormal Conference. And that was insane. That was an eye-opener for me. Thank you. Because I always heard about, people talking about these things, and I've collected them through the years. But when I saw that was like, okay, it was no longer theory, because now the laptop's actually on fire. So the doll, I still have the doll. I own it. As a matter of fact, it's on the Eli Roth. It's the Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show. And so I am going to eventually bring in some items again and talk about these haunted items. We might do that next week. We'll see. I always bless. I always have chrism. I always bless before I hold these things, because these things are pretty dangerous stuff. These are items that I have collected through the years, whether they be Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses that I actually own, real paintings from John Wayne Gacy that people have collected, and then activity has occurred in their home. This doll, even a Teddy Ruxpin that, by the way, I was on TikTok live, and this Teddy Ruxpin, a father brought in this Teddy Ruxpin doll. He bought it used because it was very expensive at the time. They couldn't find one, and he found one. I forgot where he found it. And he brought it and he put it in the crib, and he didn't think about it. It's for its little child. I think she was 2 or 3. I can't remember. And it woke him up in the middle of the night. He heard this doll going off, and he thought, "Oh, come on, she's playing with the doll." That's what he was thinking. So he goes into the child's room, and he remembers he never put batteries into this Teddy Ruxpin. So he picked it up and he looked. There are no batteries. Now, I was actually live on TikTok, and I held up this doll, and it began to talk, do its thing. And I turned it around, and there are no batteries. So he didn't want this in his home. He said, no, well, I take it. I'm done with this. I don't want it. So I have a whole entire storage facility full of very violent items that, matter of fact, I even went to a West Virginia Moundsville Paranormal Conference, and they asked me to take a bunch of items, and I did. And I had a massive space. They because there was 6 tables, and there was an individual. He was from a paranormal, I forgot the name, a paranormal team. And he asked me if I would be, he could do a thermo imaging on the doll. I said, well, sure, no problem. He did it. There is I have never seen, and he's never seen the different, thank you, William, the difference between the heat. So he showed the heat signature on the wood, and then he put the digital imaging on the doll. It was massive. The heat signature was huge. I have this on video. I have to find this. And he also did some other things. And then actually one woman almost passed out. She had this item and she just, but it's dangerous stuff. So we have to be careful. And I tell people all the time, stay away from these things. Well, I always bless them. Anytime I take them out from the storage facility into the car, I always bless them again. And when I bring them here, I always do the epiphany of the doors. I bless them all the time. So I'm very careful with these things, and you have to be, because and these are what people have. They're not selling anything. They're not on television. They're terrified of the activity that's occurring in their home. And they're begging me to please take this. I don't want it in my home. We can't explain what's going on. Please take it. So, yep, you can. It's called the Epiphany of the Doors, James. Blessing of the Doors, Chalking of the Doors. Yeah, Paul. Yeah, and some of these, obviously, there's a lot. I have Ouija boards, the Holy Spirit board, several dolls. I have some pretty heavy stuff. I'm not showing all of them. There's still a lot more that I have that I've never shown. There's a couple things that I really don't want to show because I don't want to bring it here. The doll is bad enough, but there's a couple of items that are really, really violent. And matter of fact, I'm absolutely convinced that's what started one case of possession. I don't really want to bring it here, only because I don't want to, obviously deal with that, because it's pretty rough. I'll talk about them one day. So why do I keep them, Paul? I have a Master of Education, and one thing I do is I teach about these things, and I tell people stay away from them. So people are different learners. They're visual learners. When I have these items and I bring them to a paranormal conference, people can see them. Then they get it. That's the point, because they don't want to be around it, because they emit such negative energy. And my goal is because I can sit here all day long and say, please stop collecting them, please stop collecting. And people are like, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. I've done this for 25 years. I've been through this before. Please stop collecting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, then when I bring them to a paranormal conference and people are around them, and then people come up to me and say, now I get it. Now I understand. I don't want to ever collect these items again. So this is why, because I teach, and it's important. For those of you listening to this on podcasts, I want to say a good night to you guys. I can't believe we're already, my goodness gracious, it goes by too fast, don't we? It really does. I want to remind everybody that tonight, in 1 hour, actually, we're going to be having night prayer. So hopefully you'll join us. We certainly do hope that you will. And if not, I totally understand that. We're going to be here tomorrow, just open mic night, and just chatting and saying hello to everybody. Yep, absolutely. Okay. By the way, Mr. Producer just let me know there are 40 books left. 40 books. So if you want them, you need to go. You need to head on over to the website, kgradb.com, and put your information in there and make sure. By the way, everyone, follow Bill Skywatcher on TikTok. He's Mr. Producer. All one word, Bill Skywatcher. Make sure you follow him on TikTok, everybody. For those of you who are watching this presentation on all the other social media platforms, remember I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night, and we'll see you soon.